Welcome to the Perfect Partner Podcast, a show for those of you who have not given up on love despite its challenges, where we have those difficult conversations that can affect your relationship. I am your host, Erin F. Darton. I am an emotional intelligence and relationship coach, and I am on a personal mission. I actually think it's my purpose to help people understand the importance of emotional intelligence in romantic relationships. Today, we have another great guest. Conversation is going to be great. We are going to talk about making sure that you are ready for a healthy relationship, specifically going from a toxic relationship to a healthy relationship, and what may be required of you to make sure that, you don't fumble this good person, this good partner that you guys say that you want. I'm here, guys. I just got back from Dominican Republic, Punta Cana. I got back last night at like midnight, but we're here and I'm ready for this conversation. I don't know. Have you ever been to Punta Cana?
I have.
Did
I
you
just
like
got
it?
back. I loved it because it's the type of place where you do excursions
See,
and
I don't know
lounge.
if I could say that I loved it.
Really?
Yeah, like I went for a wedding. So the
Oh,
wedding was
okay.
beautiful. I enjoyed watching them. They're actually one of my favorite couples. It's actually a younger couple, but I love them to death. Like I really think that they have a really good thing going. So I enjoyed watching them. I went with my sorority sister, so I enjoyed their company. But
Mm-hmm.
overall, I don't know that I can say that I love Punta Cana.
It's just one of those types of places where you enjoy your resort and then you do excursions off the resort.
And see, I stayed at the
Mm-hmm.
Royalton.
Okay. It
I
wasn't
probably
it.
wouldn't know the Royalton. It wasn't it. And so this is my second Royalton that I stayed at. I
Mm-hmm.
stayed at the one in St. Lucia earlier this year for a wedding, and then this one, it wasn't it for me. I was so hungry. The food was not good, like at all.
Yeah.
It just wasn't it. I don't know. So if you guys are watching, if you guys have been to Punta Cana, maybe I feel like I need to do a redo. Maybe I need a redo. So you guys let me know where I should stay, but it definitely is not the Royalton. That
Yeah.
wasn't it. Where did you stay when you went?
I actually can't remember the name of the place I stayed the first time, and then the second time I stayed at Hard Rock.
My mom goes to the
Mm-hmm.
Hard Rock almost every year and she loves it. So maybe I need a redo and
Mm-hmm.
try the Hard Rock.
Yes, and the thing is, you can't play when you stay at all inclusive. The food is already going to be, mediocre.
It,
So you have to try to book like a really good all inclusive that has a good reputation of food. But
this one, it wasn't it. Like it
yeah.
wasn't. But I'm glad I went. I feel rejuvenated. Had a long conversation with myself. Life has definitely been kicking my behind lately. But I had a conversation about perspective. Right, there's nothing that I can do about the things that have been happening in my life. But I had to
Mm-hmm.
tell myself, like, Erin, but you can do something about how you look at things and your perspective. A lot has changed in the last few weeks, especially becoming
Mm-hmm.
caregivers for my parents, becoming a caregiver for my parents. So just a lot of things have been shifting for me.
Mm-hmm.
Even before that, there was a lot, and I just have been in a mood. Right, it's a lot
Oh.
to adjust to, and I just had to tell myself like, it's okay. One, you're allowed to have these feelings, these emotions, but you got to be able to still have a good outlook by it, because that
Mm-hmm.
is what is going to dictate a lot of this. So I had a good conversation with myself as we were landing, about perspective and having a good perspective about things and kind of trying to roll with the punches. So yeah, I'm back and I am ready to get to work. It's
Yes.
going to be, yeah, I'm excited for things that are to come, even though feel like I'm getting my behind kicked at the moment, but
And you know
I
what
digress.
happens? Like life has its seasons, you know what I mean? And so you already know that there will be an end to this part phase of your
Yes.
life. And so then you'll
Yes.
move into the next phase, you know?
Yeah, and it
So
just seems like for the last 7 years, these seasons have been like running together.
yeah.
And I'm like, can I get a little bit of break? Like
Yeah.
just a little bit. Like this is like just struggling a little bit over here. Like I just need a little bit of a break. But yeah, so that's been my weekend. I enjoyed the wedding. I enjoyed my sorority sisters. I don't know that I love Punta Cana, so if you guys have any recommendations for my
Oh.
redo, let me know in the comments, so that
Yes.
I'll give it another chance. But right now, it ain't it for
Yeah.
me.
I would say
Mm-mm.
definitely give it another try. I actually went to Beyonce this weekend in
Okay.
Houston. So that was amazing. Had a great time. Ate a lot of food and she killed it. I loved it. Did you see her?
Really? I have not. I am not a
Oh.
part of the Beehive. Don't kill me, y'all. Don't kill me. I am not a part of the Beehive. I think she's a good performer.
Hmm.
But yeah, like I think she's slightly overrated. But I know you guys are going to kill me. Tomato, tomato. I know. But yeah, like it's just not. She's okay, but I wouldn't go see her in concert.
Oh, wow. No, I'm gonna drag Aaron to a Beyonce concert. You have to see
Mm,
it at least one time. You gotta try
okay. Okay. All
it.
right. So, we'll see what happens. This pimple is blowing me, but I guess that's what happens when you go on vacation. But
Mm,
anyway, our conversation today and our guest, Britt, thanks so much for joining us. When you were
yes.
sharing your story with me and your journey, I was really, it made me happy, right? Because I think we hear, especially, being a relationship coach, I unfortunately hear, stories about people being unhappy in relationships or being in an unhealthy relationship, but not really knowing how to get out of it or what to do about it, and kind of just accepting that this is their reality. But that's
Yes.
not you, and that's not how your story ended. And to hear
No.
success stories like yours, it really makes me happy. And I think that these are the types of stories that we need to be telling and that we need to be sharing, so that hopefully, right, something that you say can help somebody else that may be in the same or similar situation, whether it's they are in a relationship that they are unhappy with or that they know is toxic and don't really know what to do about it. I'm hoping that that is something that you can shed light on. um, Before we get into the conversation, you guys know the rules around here. Please be respectful of everybody and our guests. Also, no projecting and no generalizing. So, no all women this, no all men that, because they're not, one, it's not true. You may speak from your experience, totally okay. But I ask that you don't project around here because it's just not helpful and it's not true, right? All men and all women are
Mm-mm.
not the same. And so just because
Mm-mm.
something has been your experience, it does not mean that every man or every woman is as such. And so we just ask that you speak from your personal experiences, no projecting. This is not the space to hate men or hate women, right? The perfect partner, we are about having productive conversations, right? I'm not here to have those salacious conversations. Like, I actually want to help people. And that's what I do in my coaching business. And this is an extension of that. And so I really want this podcast to be about helping people, right? With situations that actually affect their life. And so with you, right, I want to talk about going from a toxic relationship to a healthy relationship and the things that you had to do to get there. I am going to introduce you, but you guys know that I have to get my wine together. And I'm
Got
so glad that you are
mine.
joining me in my wine.
Yes. Got
So
mine.
happy. I like when I don't have to drink alone.
Mm-hmm.
So let's get into our guest. Our guest for this episode is Brittany. Brittany is a licensed professional counselor with over 10 years of experience in healing and mental health. In 2017, Brittany co founded a clinic, Help Enhance Community Support Services in Dallas, Texas. Throughout her professional journey, Brittany received many confirmation that she was on the right path. But even despite that, in her personal life, she could not run from doing the inner work. And I love that. Right. Her true brokenness revealed itself in her relationships. Brittany is here and she is excited, as am I, to share how her work helped her to leave a toxic relationship and thrive in a healthy and loving relationship. And I am just so happy because, like I said, I think that there are a lot of people out there that are in toxic relationships. And I know toxic is a word that is thrown out there. So let me give you my definitions of toxic so that we're all on the same page. When I say toxic relationship, I mean anything or any relationship that is no longer serving you, right? So it's going to vary from person to person. I think that there are some things that may be standard, like disrespect or abuse, right? Those are some extremes, but I think toxic is anything where your needs are not being met and there is not a willingness to meet your needs, right? Because sometimes there's a communication issue. Like, we're not talking about that. I'm talking about situations where the person is unwilling to meet your needs. They cannot meet your needs. Something is going on where your needs are not being met, or the influence of that person, you're not happy with their influence on your life. So that's what I mean by toxic. Again, it's going to vary from person to person, but that's, just to make sure we're all on the same starting plane. So let's talk about this relationship with you.
Yes.
Why do you feel like your previous relationship was toxic?
So I actually looked up the definition of toxic before I joined the call today.
Okay.
Um, and it said poisonous. And I thought that was very interesting because, when you're being poisoned, it's a slow process.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, usually when we hear about being poisoned, it's happening repeatedly and then you get sick
Mm-hmm.
and you can show a lot of physical symptoms. And I think sometimes in relationships, we discount the physical symptoms
Mm-hmm.
that you can even look at and say, like, this is not serving me, like you said. So even like when your skin isn't thriving, your weight is up and down, you're not working out or you're not eating the things that
Mm-hmm.
you should be eating. These are all indicators that you're being poisoned, so to speak, or you're in a toxic relationship. So I think for me, all of those things did exist. You know what I mean? The physical symptoms within my body were present. Um, and then also just looking at your level of happiness. Like, especially for someone like me, and a lot of like entrepreneur women or
Yeah.
professional women, in your careers and your jobs, if you are very like goal oriented, then you know where you see yourself. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
if you feel like this isn't putting me on the path to where I see myself going, you feel bad all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You get down on yourself. So I think that was the biggest indicators for me that this relationship is not serving me.
And I like what you said about, especially if you're goal oriented, right? I'm single. Well, and I'll share more about my story. But I think one of the things that I evaluate, maybe one of the biggest things that I evaluate
Mm-hmm.
when I am meeting somebody new is, can they go where I'm going? Right? I know that I have a certain calling on my life. I know
Mm-hmm.
kind of where I'm headed. I wish I knew more. God, you can feel free to tell me everything, but based on what I know, right? I know that I'm
Yeah.
headed in a certain direction. And that's one of the things that I consider is, can this person go with me? So I think that is big, to, if you're in a relationship, make sure that your person is supportive and is also, one, can help support you there, and that support can
Mm-hmm.
be different, right? It may be monetary. They may buy some, marketing materials from you. It may be you just need the emotional support. Right, they may be there at the end of the day when you are stressed out, because entrepreneurship is a journey, right?
Mm-hmm.
You may actually need some of their something about them, their characteristics. They may be good at something that will help propel you to where you need to be. So I think that that is definitely a good sign. So how long were you guys together before you started to realize that this relationship might be toxic and not be where I need to be?
I mean, maybe 3 months, like
Okay.
very early. I feel like if we are being real with ourselves, a lot of the time, like, and can recognize that kind of situation very early.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just a matter of ignoring or, willing yourself into something um that you shouldn't be in. But we know, you know what I mean, when something
Mm-hmm.
isn't right or our intuition is telling us that something isn't right,
Mm-hmm.
especially, not to generalize, but a woman's intuition will tell you something's not
Mhm.
right. And even a man's intuition will tell you something isn't right. with this relationship or with what we're doing right now. So
Yeah.
very early.
And are you comfortable
Mhm.
sharing any of the things that you feel like you ignored that you shouldn't have?
I would say it's just like these generalized things, such as like not listening to the things that you want. So like disrespect, you know what I mean? Um, Also, like, just a difference in lifestyle choices, I would say.
Mm,
Like, I was more chill, more of a homebody. That person was more like out, and I felt like putting himself like out there for the wrong type of attention.
mm,
You know what I mean, from females and things, and it
okay.
just didn't sit right with me. In the beginning, also, like if somebody's words aren't matching the actions, like saying you're an entrepreneur or saying you work this job or you do this thing, and then you see that person every day on the
Not
couch
doing that.
or yeah, playing video games,
Mhm.
enjoying these types of things. Like these are the things that I was kind of seeing like early, you know what I mean? Or like just lot blatant things. Like I think immediately, like this person told me, like, yeah, so and so, and this was a celebrity, is my sister. You know, like just blatant things that you can Google and
Mhm.
research and find out like this is a lie right
Mhm.
now, you know?
Right. Okay,
Hmm.
so you say at least 3 months in, you kind of knew there were some red flags, but you
Hmm.
continued with the relationship. Do you know like what you were thinking at the time? Like why did you continue?
So I think in that situation, I was love bombed,
Okay.
which I do think happens a lot of times in relationships where somebody like attaches themselves to you, um, pretty much suffocates you.
Okay.
You know what I mean? They're always there. They're always like very early on, like whatever you want, can buy you things or take you out, you know, do these things to try to get you to buy in, so to speak, to
Mhm.
who they want you to think that they are, or who they're presenting themselves to be, right? So doing all of these things. So I think in my situation, that's pretty much what it was. It was like a suffocation of love bombing, even though
Okay.
I knew I needed to be away from that situation.
Okay.
Hmm.
So, how long did you end up being in this relationship?
Maybe like, honestly, like 11, 12 months,
Okay.
barely to the year mark.
Okay.
Hmm.
So, what was that like? So, you said that for the first 3 months that you kind of knew or you saw these flags, right? You guys had different lifestyles. His actions weren't matching his words. The love bombing,
Hmm.
get trying to get, like you said, get you to buy into this persona that he was portraying, right? So, what was it like being in that type of relationship?
It was sad. It felt lonely. It was embarrassing to, I
Mm,
feel that the people who are near you, so if you have friends saying like, this don't make sense, or you know what I mean, I don't like what I'm seeing here, and then you continue down a certain trajectory. So it felt bad, honestly. It felt really bad in my situation because of even my profession, like being a therapist and being able to empower people and help people to be them their best selves and leave a situation. I remember having a lot of thoughts of myself like, Brittany, you are a therapist. What are you doing? You know what I mean? So I remember this awareness that I had
mhm,
within myself and like saying these things to myself. So I think I was very disappointed in myself. You
mm.
know what I mean? And I know like that time frame isn't a long time. I know some people spend years in, you know, toxic relationships and things like that. But however, I just felt that prior to getting into that relationship, I was single and I felt like I had arrived, right? I felt like I had did all this work. I felt like I, you know, was ready for anything. So the disappointment that I felt came from that too, because I felt that I had been in this healing phase already. I felt like I had done these things already. So why was I back in a situation that I felt that I should have been way younger dealing with, you know?
And did you have an answer to that? Like, when you asked yourself, like, how did I end, like, or did you ever say, like, how did you end up here? Like you said, you are a therapist, right? And you said, you know, you felt disappointed. Did you ever ask yourself, like, how did you even get here, Brittany?
I did. I think part of it was something that I grew from after that relationship, which was being like blinded by what I think in the beginning, like being attracted to a person physical and being blinded by just what they tell me in the beginning and not doing any like observation and looking beyond that. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
kind of like, oh, I met this person. Oh, he looks like this. He said he does this. I'm already down the road, like, okay, this is good. We're together. You know what I mean? And that was like a thing that I had done. It was just a habit. Like, you meet somebody and you're not even vetting this person. You're not
Okay.
even asking questions. You're not even observing, like, what is this person's character? What is this person's morals? You're not doing these things. You're just like, oh, this is the one. This works. We vibe. We laughed. Okay. You know?
So let me ask you this, and I think that this happens a lot. And so
Mm-hmm.
this whole vetting process, I think it's a big deal. And I think it is where a lot of people drop the ball. I know that sometimes what happens is we share what it is we're looking for. We share what it is we want. And so I think there are times where that person hears what we say and they pretend to be that person, but aren't really. Do you feel like that was the situation for you? Like, do you feel like you shared everything with him and he was like, so right? She says she wants this. I'm going to be exactly what she said. Or do you feel like it was just, kind of the persona that he was portraying that you were already attracted to?
I think it was a persona. It's both. It was a
Okay.
persona that he was already portraying. However, I carry myself in a certain way. Like, I feel like when you see me on the street, you know, like, she's about her business. She's, independent on her own. She can handle herself type woman.
Okay.
So yeah, like, you can just observe that and know if you're going to approach me, oh, I'm going to be a boss, or I'm going to be, you know what I mean, about my business and this leader and all of these qualities, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I want to go back to something that you said about, feeling disappointed, or if your friends are saying like things don't add up. But I feel like sometimes friends can be haters. They just mad that they're not in a relationship. So
Mhm.
how do you know if it's, these people or that somebody is hating versus you should really take heed to what the person may be saying?
I think you should always like listen, but understand your friends also, right? Understand like what their situations are and what
Mm-hmm.
their life experience is, and that what they're telling you is going to be from that perspective, from that worldview. So some things that they're saying, yes, like, take it with a grain of salt. But then in a situation where you already feel something in your heart and you already feel that something is funny and not adding up, I think that's a valid time for you to listen to your friends and be like,
Right.
okay, let me take a step back. You don't have to leave the relationship at that point, but you can take a step back and observe what they're saying and really
Mm-hmm.
try to see it from outside of yourself, you know?
Yeah. And
Mm-hmm.
so, you say you don't have to leave right away. And I think leaving is
Mm-hmm.
harder than I think some people realize. Like, even I was talking to somebody this weekend, they were like, their friend is in an abusive relationship and they're kind of tired
Mm-hmm.
of the back and forth. And so my advice to them, or my suggestion was, right, instead of offering, right, instead of telling her she should leave, because the person is not going to leave until they're ready, right? So
Mm-hmm.
what I suggested to them is to ask the person, how can I support you in that season, right? What is it that you need from me right now? So when the person comes to you again and they've had an altercation or they're upset, right? Ask, how can I support you? Right? Because clearly that person is not in a space to hear what you're saying. They're not going to leave just because you said leave. If they do, it might be temporary. Or if they do, they have to figure out what part of them was attracted to that toxicity. Otherwise, the next person is going to be exactly like the person that they're leaving. So they have to learn their lesson. Like, I don't believe in telling people to leave a situation because you have to learn your lesson. And so when you finally realize, like, okay, I can't do this anymore, did you leave right away?
I would say yes and no. Like,
Okay.
I did at one point, and then it continued. Like, because I'm telling you, like at that 3 months, that's when I left the first time. And then it continued on for a couple more months and dragged on just because of the love bombing stuff, I feel. So for me, it was a situation where I am very close to God in my spirituality. And I leaned on God and talked to God and prayed and said, okay, like, show me, what I need to do. Like, show me my way to leave, or, what needs to happen. And that is what happened. Because if you ask God, he shall bring it to you, especially like if you're ready, or if it's a situation that you need to be pulled out of and it's not healthy. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah, I think my discernment is good. I don't always want to listen though. Like, and I know that we have this desire to be in relationship, right? We aren't meant to be alone. I truly believe that. And I think that our desire to be in a relationship sometimes, unfortunately, can, like you said, help us to ignore the things that are in front of us. Looking back, right? Because hindsight is 2020. Looking back, other than the things that you kind of knew at the 3-month mark, with the relationship that you're in now versus that, looking back, are there other things that you feel like, oh, that was probably an indication or a red flag of what this relationship turned out to be, but maybe you didn't recognize it at that moment?
I mean, the biggest red flag is a relationship with Christ. For me personally, I'm not saying that this, um, has to apply. I know some people, they have different values and things in their relation that they're looking for in their relationship. But for me personally, I believe that this is the hands down, the number one red flag is somebody not exercising their faith. If they do say that they're a believer, not exercising that faith, and or somebody not having their own relationship with God. Because like that, not only obviously do we love, God and things like that, but it's an accountability system. It holds you accountable to certain morals and standards within yourself, and then within your relationship, and within how you treat other people, So I think that was the biggest one. And then also what I just said, how he treats other people, looking at like what their relationships look like with other people that are in their lives. What does that relationship really look like with their family members? What does it really look like with their friends? Do they not have any close friends? Are they, arguing or beefing with people in the streets? Like, what is really going on with that person's ability to maintain healthy relationships even outside of you? So I think that was also, looking back, something that from the beginning you can just say like, yeah, no, this is not for me.
And I think that's a good point. Definitely the relationships they have, the other relationships, platonic with their parents. Like, I ask about all of those things. Right? What's your relationship like with your co-parent? I think that's an important one. Right? Not even just because I'm going to be involved with you, but I still need to know that, right, you're taking care of your responsibilities, and I need to like know that you can still co-parent and be mature about the situation. The relationship with their parents, I like that question a lot. because it usually gives me a lot about their idea of love, because you get your first idea of love from the people that take care of you as a child. And I can remember distinctly, like, certain men, I would ask about their relationship with their parents, and when it wasn't healthy, I can absolutely see how it showed up in them now. So I think that those are absolutely great questions or things that you need to inquire about when you are meeting somebody. So whatever you see, not whatever, but you see 3 months in, you see the red flags, you continue for about a year. How did you finally get the courage to get out, and how did you get out?
I mean, one day I literally just left. Like, literally, it was instant. That's just me as a person. Like, if I'm
Okay.
building up to something, so here's the thing, I was already doing the work to leave while in the relationship. Like, I
Okay.
knew that this was happening. I was praying about it. I was seeking my counsel about it. I was talking to my friends at this point, who at those times we were just having these kind of conversations where I was being more open instead of being like, okay, with them saying like, well, what you think about this and this? I was being more open about it. Like, this is what's going on. And yeah, I know I need to go. You know what I mean? And they were supporting me in that. So it literally reached like a point where I was just at the end, like, and that was it. You know what I mean? Where God, I feel, provided me with the strength.
So
Mm-hmm.
when you say you were doing the work already,
Mm-hmm.
kind of what did that look like? I know you said you were talking to your friends, but what types of things did you have to work through?
So, one, getting the strength, to combat the love bombing, or somebody, saying to you like how much they love you, or how much they care for you every time you're trying to leave. Or I remember one time, like, trying to leave, and I literally come home and this person was on my couch. No lie, like in the dark, sitting on the couch. And it's like, because I wasn't answering the phone all day, he had climbed the balconies, right? And I was on the ninth floor, but all of the balconies were connected. Had climbed over the balconies and was on my couch when I walked through
Wow.
the door. So it was this type of clinginess that was happening. You know what I mean? When you try to not pick up the phone, like pulling up to where you are, or when you try to walk, it's just here he is,
Right.
again. So literally, it took for me to really, in that preparation stage, like prepare for him just not to know where I was, like what my movements were, for example, or just like not blocking him on the phone, like just these different steps to kind of like build that distance prior. Like,
Mm-hmm.
even though I'm still dealing with you, you don't really know where I'm at, you don't really know what I'm doing. I was always in Houston, 3 hours away, visiting my friends, always. Like, probably like that last 2 or 3 months, like constant was
Mm-hmm.
gone. So I was just building that distance in order to
Mm-hmm.
be like, okay, now you really don't know how I'm moving or where I am. And you cannot love bomb me this way.
Mm-hmm. And so throughout this whole time and the transition out, did you ever have to deal with, or did you have conversations with him about things that you wanted to be differently and he said I would but didn't? Is that ever anything that you had to deal with?
Yeah, it was always that he would, and then you would see he didn't. That was always the case. Like, yeah, I'm going to like show up for you more. I'm going to start this new business. It was always a new thing. And
Mm-hmm.
that new thing, even if he did do it a week tops, maybe, maybe a couple weeks, if that, you would see that happen, and then you would see something, it revert right back the way it
Mm-hmm.
was, for in order for him to kind of, get a hold of you again. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like, okay, well, she was about to leave, now I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this for 2 weeks. And then I'm going to, okay, she's back. I'm going to just go on about my business now and do what I was doing.
So how did you, because I feel like there are times where somebody could look at that as progress, like, oh, he's trying or she's trying, like, they did a little bit more, they did a little bit more.
Mm.
um I guess, how did you kind of realize that it wasn't progress, it was more of a, I'm just doing enough to keep you,
Mm-hmm.
versus actual progress, which takes time.
You just have to look at the person. Like, you know what I mean? It goes back to looking at the person's character, right? And who they are as a person, and looking at other things outside of you, right? Like their ability to hold a job or do what it is that they're doing in their career. Did they say that they were going to start a business 10 years ago and then start and quit? Are they a starter and quitter and they never see something through? Or is this a person with the potential? I think it all boils down to look at the characteristics and the traits of the person. Like,
Mm-hmm.
are they a liar? You know what I mean? Do they lie on little stuff? The stuff that you don't even have to lie about. Like, that's
Right.
a clear indicator that this person is just a liar, right? Or this person is just saying the things that they think, they should say
Mm-hmm.
um to engage or to get other people to do something that they want, them to do.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this person that we're speaking of in particular would claim to own other people's businesses. Like, these are the things, like, you know what I mean, where it's just like,
Right.
no, you
You
don't.
don't own
So
that business, right? Right.
exactly. So these are the things that you can really see. It lies in a person's character. And I know sometimes you can't even really see a person's character when you're in a situation. And
Mm-hmm.
that's why I think that vetting period that we were talking about in the beginning is so important prior to getting into a relationship with somebody, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because had I not got into a relationship with this person kind of month one,
Mm-hmm.
then I would have spent that first 3 months just vetting the person. And it's a different ball game when you're leaving somebody you just talking to versus somebody you're in a relationship versus a husband or wife, right?
Mm-hmm.
So before you take each of these steps, spend the time necessary to really observe and ask questions. I noticed a lot of times, even in my practice or even with like some of my friends, there are so many questions in the beginning that are not being asked from a woman's perspective. And I'm not saying that this
Mm-hmm.
happens all the time, but a man, I notice like a lot of the times, a lot of men are actually vetting you. Like, they're asking these questions, or they're observing like what it is that you're doing
Mm-hmm.
to see, are you the type of woman that I could see myself with? But a woman is like, okay, he took me on a date, or we went here, we did this, and he bought me this, and he smelled good, and
That
and
part.
that's it
Mm-hmm.
for a woman. Or then we assume a lot of things,
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, he's driving a Tesla. He must got his life together. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so now forget the questions because he's driving a Tesla. So
Mm-hmm.
forget it. I don't need to know. I know that he somehow got this Tesla, you know?
Mm-hmm. Not
And
knowing
you
that it could
just
be a big payment every month, or behind on, yeah.
mhm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Mhm.
I get it. So you finally leave. What do you feel like, or how did that relationship affect you once you finally left?
Um I feel like it was more forgiving myself was the
Mm-hmm.
biggest thing
That's a big one.
that needed to be done than anything. Because a lot of these things I knew already. These are lessons that, like I said, but prior to him, I really felt like I had arrived. It wasn't, I spent time doing the work, you know what I mean? It was
Mm-hmm.
not a situation where I was just kind of out here and I was just dating and that kind of thing. That's not it.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I felt like I needed to go back to those things
Mm-hmm.
of where did I feel like, or what did I feel like I achieved prior to, and now actually executing these things.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, in order to execute the things, I needed to forgive myself first and not feel so guilty and not feel so much shame
Mm-hmm.
for allowing myself to even get into that situation in the first
Mm-hmm.
place. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
And what do you think were your biggest lessons from that relationship?
Biggest lessons were that I knew I needed somebody aligned with my faith and my belief system
Mm-hmm.
to definitely vet the person that I'm looking at, ask questions and observe, to see, are these things, am I seeing the things that this person is actually telling me? And then also just to protect yourself, like in that beginning phase, you know what I mean? Because I feel like sometimes me specifically or other women that I see can be so open, women or men, I would say, can be so open in the beginning. You want to be vulnerable, but you have to be vulnerable with safe people, like people that will protect you and people that will not harm you, you know,
Mm-hmm. So
which
what
is
do
a
you
big
feel
thing.
like you could, yeah, what do you feel like you could have done to protect yourself or moving forward? Like, is there anything that you
Hmm.
decided, like, this is how I'm going to move differently next time? Like, what kind of things have you implemented since that relationship?
Just one, making sure I slow down, making sure that I'm ready for each phase of the relationship. So, not allowing someone to kind of speed up, you know, my process, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
or where I am, right? Um, what else? I would say prayer. I'm telling you this. I'm telling y'all, this is what it is. I have to pray my way through, pray my way out, and pray my way into the next relationship. So
Mm-hmm.
it just became like a really big habit. I had to, create the prayer closet. I literally essentially had a list, but it was in a prayer essentially because I was praying for
Mm-hmm.
God. I actually found it when I had gotten into my relationship now, and I was praying for my husband and these things like let him, Lord, please let him have good character, let him have good relationship with his family, let him treat me this way. So that was a major, major part um, of it, to be honest. And then I would say probably too, like more emotional regulation stuff within myself, like making sure that I understood emotions better, right? So, because I feel like a lot of people, we're human and we can become very overwhelmed with emotions. And sometimes it will affect our behavior and we don't understand like how it's actually affecting our behavior. So, I literally like studied emotions, like what were my triggers for each emotion and how to like prep for each thing, right? So I studied what was the purpose of each emotion. So, and making sure that I was utilizing my emotions for that purpose, right? So, what is the purpose of happiness? Why do we feel happy? What is the purpose of anxiety and why do we feel anxious? Like, well, I know anxiety is to protect us. Like, should we be afraid of something? And then I would ask myself, like, okay, I'm feeling an anxiety right now. Should I be afraid of something? And then you can observe within that person, should you be afraid of something because you feel that anxiety within you and you're able to separate all of the different emotions that are going on within yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I love that.
Mhm.
That's emotional intelligence right there.
Mhm.
And I think I talk to a lot of people. Well, I'm work mostly with women. I talk to a
Mhm.
lot of women about that because they do have these anxieties, especially if they come from a relationship where maybe things didn't end well, or there were
Mhm.
components of the relationship that weren't healthy for them. Right? I think you become hypersensitive to certain things,
Mhm.
that the issues that were in your previous relationship. And so when I'm talking to women, like my client now, we were having a conversation and she was like, "Oh, I'm done talking to this person because of X, Y, and Z." And so I had to ask her, you know, explicitly tell me how you got to that conclusion that he might do this. right?
Mhm.
And we had to walk through it. Some of it was from her previous relationship that she was projecting, right? This
Mhm.
person hadn't done those things. There may be signs or there are things that may have resembled it, right? But in her situation, she was projecting, right? She saw
Mhm.
one thing and was like, oh no, this is right. And we all want to protect ourselves, and that's valid, right?
Mhm.
But like you said, I think your emotions are to alert you about something that you do or you don't like something. But I think the second part of that you said, evaluating and looking to see, right, to make sure that you aren't projecting your past experiences on this person, right? And or is this really something with this person that I need to be
Mhm.
cautious of, or is not okay with me? So I think that is
Mhm.
absolutely important. So
Mhm.
did you go to therapy after that relationship ended?
Oh yes. Yes,
Okay.
ma'am. I was definitely in therapy, talking these things through. And
Mhm.
then being a therapist, honestly, was a big help because a lot of the things that I was telling other people in session, I was doing it myself. So
Okay.
I'd be like, oh, that was good. I just said, you know, I'm about to do this exercise myself, and see how it goes. So basically, I was doing a lot of things all at the time. I was doing it every day because not only was it my profession, but then um, I had a guide or therapist, to help me within my own self as well, you know. So I was literally spending the time to actually put the emotional regulation piece in practice. You know what I mean? For example, I was a very impatient person. Like, I would go to Walmart, fill up my cart, and if that line was too chaotic for me, I would walk out. Like, I would spend 2 hours in Walmart and then get to the line, and I can't wait in this.
Right.
So I had to, like, just things like this, you know what I mean? Like, looking around to my habits and figuring out ways that I can actually put my emotional regulation in practice in
Mhm.
small ways in my regular normal life all the time, you know? Like,
Mhm.
I'm in Walmart. Okay, I know that if I go to Walmart, I'm probably going to be in here a long time. That's the first thing, like prepping myself
Pre-coping. Mhm.
before I go in there. Two, you already know that 9 times out of 10 it's going to be a long line,
Mhm.
right? It's going to be babies crying. It's going to be kids running. You was like, I had to prep myself for this. And then when I got in it, okay, I'm calm. I'm here. I know what to expect. I plan my day out. I have the right amount of time here. I'm not
Mhm.
rushing. So it's just these types of small things that I was doing all the time. It never stopped.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And
I
that's
love
what
that.
made me, yeah.
I love that. So how
Thank
long do
you.
you feel like it took you to get over that last relationship?
Oh, that was fast. I was over it within it. Like, I was
Okay.
I was over it within it because, like I told you already, I was already doing the work,
Mhm.
right? I was already like there. So that's, you can do these baby steps to kind of like prepare yourself, right?
Mhm.
It wasn't a situation like when I left that was that. And, it wasn't any of that like back and forth. What are we doing? It wasn't any more conversations. It wasn't any more, which is a good point. I want to touch on that. Wasn't any more conversations with or about him. Like, when you stop talking to someone, you stop talking about them too. Like, now the process is you. Like, how can you heal yourself? Like, what did you do wrong and different? You know what I mean? Like, I wasn't having no conversations about that situation. Like, if my friends wanted to talk, I let them know. No, we done with that.
I love that you just said that,
Mhm.
right? There was a point like you had your moment, you talked about him, you
Mhm.
processed whatever you needed to process, but you say there is a moment where you decided that the conversation is no longer about him and you had to take accountability for the part you played in all of that. And I think that is really big because it is very easy to say, right, oh well, he love bombed me, or he did this, or he did he pretended to be the person I wanted him to be. He was at my house when I showed up. And I think it's easy to use those examples as reasons to stay, or reasons to kind of hold on to the situation secretively. But I love that you took the moment to take accountability, because I think with taking that accountability, I think that's the only way you make sure you don't make the mistakes anymore. Right. And I don't think it is necessarily excusing his behaviors, right? It's just that, right, you can't control anybody but you. And so you're not
Exactly.
excusing them. It's just that, right, at this point, you can only control Brittany. So you got to look at what Brittany did to make sure Brittany doesn't end up in this situation again. I love that. And
Yep.
so do you feel comfortable sharing, like, what do you feel like was your part that you played? Like, what did you have to take accountability for?
I mean, definitely allowing myself to get in that situation, period, because of where I was prior to. Again, like, not taking the time, not being observing, allowing lust. Like, that's a big thing. I think a lot of times we can easily identify a man, being filled with lust in these types of things. But I do think that it's an issue that women experience as well. Is like lust, like, oh, he fine, or he, that, yeah, like, I want him, and then and you forget everything because you know what I mean of that. So I think just making sure that I was always like grounded in like what I was looking for in that person, and observed it, and allowing myself to even, that should have been over at month 3. Okay. And it should never even been a relationship to begin with. You know what I mean? It should have been that vetting period for that 3 months. And then, okay, this isn't for me by that 3rd month, and that's it. So once I forgave myself, right, which is a big thing, I was Googling
How to forget.
so, like, how do you do this? Because I also wanted to talk to a lot of my clients in therapy about it too, because I noticed like that's a big thing. Is that like kind of forgiveness piece, right? Or if you are getting a divorce, or you know what I mean, leaving somebody, it's almost like you feel like you failed, and you did not fail. You know what I mean? You made a mistake or multiple mistakes, and you can make a million mistakes, and that's okay, as long as one day you decide, I'm not making these same mistakes anymore. Make new mistakes. You
Right.
know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
don't make the ones that you made last year this year. This year now I'm messing up in a different way. And that's what I promised myself. I was like, I'm not ever going to make these same mistakes. Now I'm going to move on. And yes, I am making new mistakes, even in my healthy relationship, but it's different now because I've come a long way. You know what I mean?
Yep. So let's talk about this new relationship, this new healthy relationship. What for you, what does this healthy relationship feel like versus the previous one?
Oh, it feels so good.
I love that for you.
Yes. I also looked up the definition of healthy before I came on here too. And it said indicative of, conducive to, or promoting good health, not diseased. And so it's really the complete opposite. Okay. Like, I'm healthier than ever, you know, physically, mentally, emotionally. I'm not worried about, you know, things that he's doing at all, to be honest with you, because it's built on trust that's there. And it's built on our friendship that we have, and the foundation that we created, you know, bank account bigger than ever, got you saving, got you investing,
I love that.
like just teaching me new things. Yeah, it just feels loving, and a way that, almost like a way that when you relate to like God's love and how he feels for you, like it feels real good, right? Having this relationship, because I've never had a relationship like the one that I'm in before.
I love that.
And that love, it feels like that kind of love, right? Like it's strong, it's healthy, like this is right here, you know?
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
So you said the first 3 months you should have vetted the last one, this one. Like, what did you do differently going into this relationship versus, that last one?
Definitely. So, one, yeah, we dated for 6 months prior to getting in a relationship. I probably could have gotten in around 4 months, but
Mm-hmm.
I was patient because of what I had learned. I was
Mm-hmm.
exercising what I had learned. Um, so that whole time was spent in that dating and that vetting phase. I did not allow outside influences during that time to kind of like sway me. I did not allow my own emotions or my own thinking to like sway me. I did not expect him to be in a relationship with me when I was not. Because I find that to be a thing too, like with a lot of my clients. It's like, sis, y'all just met 2 months ago. Like,
Mm-hmm.
this is not your boyfriend.
Right.
And he is allowed to date other people. So during that time, like, I never asked him what he was doing and who he was doing it with. But I knew that I didn't care, to be honest. I was focused on what we had going on, which is, trust me, y'all, that's growth. Because that is growth. You know what I mean? Like I was just like new things, not doing old things. I knew that this whole relationship was going to be done in a different way.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
Hmm.
What did you feel like, maybe at least in the beginning, or were there anything that you kind of feel like crept over from your previous relationship?
Nope,
No.
I did not allow that. I was healed and ready to be
Mm-hmm.
in a relationship. I did not allow it to creep over into this relationship at all, period.
Okay, so how did
Hmm.
you know you were healed and ready for a new relationship?
Well, because I was doing all of that work that I told you, I was
Mm.
testing myself already this time though. Like instead of like last time I said I had arrived, right? I
Right.
did the work. Okay, yeah, I arrived, but you never passed the test. That's like when you are in school, like, okay, you could do great all semester and then
Mm-hmm.
you fail the final and you got to retake the
And that's
class. So, you know what I mean? So I kind
Mhm.
of like equated to that. Whereas this time, I actually put myself to the test and I was able to do that during that courting, talking phase, like by me not getting emotional or focusing on what he was doing outside and focusing on us and our relationship, by me recognizing during that time, like we talked about, oh, how do I feel right now? I feel a little bit anxious, or I feel this. Let's talk about it. Okay, I had this feeling creep up about X, Y, and Z thing, and then this person is communicating with me, transparently about what it is that I'm feeling or what it is that he's feeling. You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
all of these things that we talked about now were actually in practice. And I was definitely
That.
asking questions,
I love that.
in the beginning.
I
Hmm.
love that. So the last one, and you kind of answered this question, but you talked about the red flags that you ignored with the last relationship.
Hmm.
What are some of the green flags that gave you an indication that, right, this relationship is right for me?
His character was a huge green flag that I could see his character without being in a relationship with me, right? Like how he treated his mom. They had a date every week. Gonna go eat.
So
I know.
cute.
And I observed this, you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like, every week, right? Um, how other people looked at him, not just his relationships with other people like his friends, but how they looked at him, like they respected him. You know what I mean? It wasn't just like, oh, you my friend, but it's like I have respect for this person. Um, it was his relationship with Christ, first and foremost, how he was able to grow me in my faith and my spirituality. You know what I mean? It wasn't a situation where I was alone praying or, studying the Bible. That was not the case ever. In fact, he was teaching me things that I didn't know. Never had that before. Um, it was I mean, just even how he made me feel, like the healthy feeling of it all. The best way I really can describe it is like that godly love that you feel at church, that you feel, in these environments, that you feel with your mom, that you feel with your brother or your best friend. You know what I mean? Like that type of love transition into your relationship top with that now emotional aspect or intimacy aspect, right? From your relationship.
I love that. So you
Mm-hmm.
already mentioned that after the last relationship, you kind of wrote out a prayer of things that you wanted in your husband, and you said that this guy has a lot of the things. Are there any things that this guy has that wasn't on your list that you're like, oh wow, that you really appreciate and that you enjoy that, but it wasn't on your list?
Yeah, I think so. Definitely, probably his like cultural background, because he was in a military
Okay.
kid or whatever. So, when you have parents in the military, you lived overseas, like you're more open minded. You've had like that kind of experience of like moving around and knowing a different bunch of cultures and knowing a different bunch of people and things like that, which for me, I'm a wanderlust. I love traveling. So I feel like that was definitely like an added bonus that I didn't even think of. And then also he him in his faith, he's in like an apologetic or whatever apologist who basically they study the historical and the scientific aspects of the Bible, and they're able to like debate these different topics. So he was beyond knowledgeable in a different way that I had ever been, because I'm more like faith based. Like I just always feel it in my heart and I know, period, the end. Whereas he knows like, you know, a lot of the background stuff and things that can be taught to me in that kind of way. You know what I mean? Which is like a huge plus. And I was saying, I don't know, I got everything. I got everything I pray for, y'all.
I love that. I
Like,
really love
yes.
that for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So
Thank
did you guys
you.
like hit it off right away?
We did. One of his first questions that he did ask me is like, what do you like to do? And of course, and I'm like, oh, I read. Well, what books you reading? I'm reading the 48 Laws of Power, whatever. And I'm like, oh, tell me more.
Right.
I'm like intrigued by the conversation immediately. When we had our first date, immediate like chemistry, you know what I mean? Immediate connection. It just felt like God had not forgotten about me, because at a certain point I did feel like that. You know what I
Right.
mean? It just felt like I was in the wait, and I was ready, when I actually took what I learned, when I stopped making the same mistakes, when I improved my emotional regulation, when I took accountability for things and became like truly my best self. Not only did I do the work inside my home and inside my prayer closet, but I did the work outside. I was putting it to practice and passed the test. So it just felt like, you know what, like a reward for all of this hard work and coming to a place of being truly ready, like this
Mhm.
person, was built for me.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I love that. I am very happy for you. I am glad
Thank
that,
you.
you took the time to do the work, because I think that's the important part. I think
Mhm.
sometimes we can pray for this person, but we might fumble this person if we're not ready.
Mhm.
And doing the work is not easy, right? Having to
Mhm.
look at yourself and realize that you have contributed to where you are and why,
Mhm.
your relationship may be the way that it is, or why you've had maybe multiple failed relationships. That's not easy, right? I've been there.
Mhm.
Um, and it's like me, like, how could it be me? And
Mhm.
it's definitely uncomfortable, but I absolutely think that it is one of the most powerful things that you can do for
Yep.
your relationship. And I think it helps you to realize exactly what it is you want and need in a partner, right? For it to
Mhm.
be healthy. I think it gives you the power to say yes and no a lot quicker.
Mhm.
And I think that's the best way to ensure that you are you're picking a good partner, and that, long term, your relationship is going to be healthy. So I think all of that is good. Thank you so much for sharing and being transparent with us. I am going to ask you to come up with our tip for Thriving Thursday. So
Okay.
Thrive on Thursdays, I used to give a tip to help people thrive in their singleness. And I don't mean
Mhm.
singleness in terms of relationship status. I mean single as a person. So regardless of your relationship status, you are a whole individual. And so it means everything that you have is everything that you need. You're more than a mom. You're more than a dad. You're more than a wife and a husband. Right. So thrive in your singleness, because that is how you continue to be a good partner and all of that.
Mhm.
And so if you're ready, since you're the guest, I'll let you come up with give the tip for Thriving Thursday.
You know what? I love that so much. And that's actually something that my partner and I always say to each other, like to always do the work within yourself and be a
Mhm.
whole person all the time, no matter when you're in that relationship, no matter what you have going on. So, my tip is along those same lines, which is to be patient and know that God will repay you for every moment you were mishandled. Like
Mm.
during this time of singleness, like do the work, heal, be by yourself, love yourself. And even if you are, like you said, in a relationship, just know that when you're doing that internal work, like God will still repay for every moment you were mishandled.
I love that.
Mhm.
I absolutely love that. Um, and I concur. How
Mhm.
can people get in touch with you? I don't know if your books are open for more clients, or how can they, use you as a resource or reach out to you, all of that.
So I can be reached on Instagram at Miss Brittany Janae underscore, and that's BrittanyJena or info at hhcss.org. So that's Harry, Charlie, Sam.org. If you are interested in therapy and counseling sessions. And I do have several other therapists on staff as
Okay.
well. If people are interested, and they're all trained and led by me. So I do employ people with a similar mindset as mine.
I love that. And so I will also make sure that your information is in the description for the episode. The episode will be
Mhm.
out tomorrow morning. Every Thursday, we put out a new episode. Next week, we're actually sitting down with Dr. Shanika Goodman,
Awesome.
who did her dissertation about the effects of social media on relationships. So next week, we're talking about social media and relationships, and Dr. Goodman is going to come and talk about her research, and we'll talk about, processing emotions and the things that come up about of social media and your relationship. So I'm excited for next
Mhm.
week as well. I hope that you guys continue to join us on this transformative journey, right, as we explore the importance of emotional intelligence in romantic relationships and learn how our behaviors, our emotions, and our relationships are all tied together. So I hope you guys will continue to join us. Thanks for watching us this week, and I will see you guys next week.